everybody, and welcome back. My name is MrCaproni, and this is my ACT Prep channel. If this is your first time joining us, fantastic, because today we're going to be covering decimals. Yes, everything to do with decimals. Now remember, raising your ACT score is not a one-time fix. This is something you need to be practicing all year long. So we'll be covering decimals today, but make sure you click the subscribe button so that you can see my new videos every week so that we cover all of the content on the ACT. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into this week's episode on decimals. Decimals fall in the pre-algebra section of the Math ACT. So as you can see here, there are a ton of topics in that section. If you want to see all of these topics and the rest of the major categories of the ACT test, you can go ahead and check out my other video at the top where I break down every bit of this test. But for today, we're only looking at decimals. So when we are looking through all this material, don't get overwhelmed. We're not going to handle it all at once. There's a reason why I break this down in so many videos. So for today, the four major types of questions that go with decimals are place value questions, comparing decimals, rounding decimals, and then decimal computations. Now, starting off, we have place values. This works very similar to how we did the whole numbers, where it has specific names for each, and you need to know all of them. I don't want to say just sit here and memorize something, but in this case, you really just need to know these off the top of your head. After the decimal place, it goes tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so forth. Now, don't worry, we don't really ever use these in everyday life. It only looks like I have 33 thousandths of my tea left. It is still important, though. Next, we're going to go ahead and look at comparing decimals. Now, this does work the same as whole numbers did. So we're going to be lining up our numbers and then looking from left to right to see which number has the first largest number, and then that will be the largest number as a whole. So as we're looking down here, we can see first off, 532 versus 516, we don't even need to worry about the decimals because this 3 is larger than the 1 before we even hit the decimal point, which makes the 532 number larger. Down here, we have 27 and 27, so in this case, we do need to look at the decimals, but it works the same way. We're going to be going from the left to the right. So 8 is larger than 3, first number after the decimal, so it's the first to the left, which means that this guy, again, is going to be our larger number. Down at the bottom, people may jump to conclusions and go, oh, that one has a 5 there and a 2 here, and it has an extra number, so it must be larger. But don't forget, slow down, and we're moving from left to right. So we're looking at the 1,000 first, and 1,000 is way larger than a number in the hundreds, which makes the number on the right the larger number in this case. If you are still struggling with these, remember, it does help to line them up by the decimal point first. So I took this middle guy right here and wrote them over here, and you can see the 27s are the same, and the 8 is larger than the 3, making the top one our larger number. And down at the bottom, after I line up the decimals, you can see that there's not even a number to compare with the 1, which makes our bottom number the larger number in that case. Next, we're going to look at rounding decimals. Now, this is where knowing your place values is really going to come in handy. This first question says, round the following number to the nearest thousandths place. So the first thing you need to know how to do is know where the thousandths place is, all right? So if we look through this, we got 34.69381243. I know, a lot of numbers, a lot of them not needed. So looking at this, where is the thousandth place? Well, remember it goes tenths, then hundredths, then thousandths, which means 3 is going to be our thousandths place. Now remember, when we're rounding, we always want to check the number to the right of the 3, and that's going to tell us if we need to round that 3 up or keep it the same. If that number is 5 or larger, we round the number up. If that number is 4 or lower, then we just keep it the same. In this case, that next number is an 8, which is larger than 5, which means we're going to go ahead and change it to a 4. That means that our final answer will turn the rest of them into zeros, but we don't need to put the zeros in there. That's just extra useless stuff. So we'll actually just put our answer as 34.694. Now, you don't put the zeros after, because if you put the zeros, that means that that's an exact number that you've rounded all the way out with the zeros. That's not what we did here. We rounded it up, so you actually just drop those zeros off. They're not needed when rounding decimals. Let's have some audience participation. Why don't you try answering this one on your own and leave the answer in the comments below. While you're down there, go ahead and hit the like button, help a guy out. The last type of question we're covering today is decimal computations. And to be honest, I'm not going to say much about it because I believe you should be using a calculator for questions like this. There's no reason for you to multiply, add, subtract, divide decimals without the use of a calculator. It's just going to waste time for you. You get 1 minute per question on this test. You need to use the time to the best of your ability. And that does not mean you trying to do calculations in your head with decimals. Plug it into the calculator, get your answer. If you're worried about what type of calculator to use for the ACT, I do have a video for that I will link above, and you can check that out and see which one seems to fit you best. With that said, that's going to wrap up our conversation on decimals for the day. As always, guys, thanks for joining me today, and I hope you got something useful out of this video. Remember, help me out by hitting the like button, or go ahead and click subscribe if you want to keep getting these ACT prep videos so that you can be prepared to the best of your ability for the next time you take the ACT test. Again, thanks for joining me. My name is MrCaproni, and this is your ACT Math Prep.